Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Narayanam Padmabhavam Vasishtam Shaktim cha Tatputra Parasharam cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Matasya Shishyam Sri Shankaracharya Matasya Padma Padam cha Hastamalakam cha Shishyam Tam Todakam Vartika Karamanyan Asmadgurun Santatamanatosmi Shruti Smriti Purananamalayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutravashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Samasta Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. It gives me great pleasure to share some of my thoughts on the subject of logic of Advaita Vedanta with you all. Coming straight to the subject matter, logic cannot reach us to Brahman. Naisha Tarkena Matirapaneya. Then what is this topic is about? Tarka cannot reach us to Brahman. Nyaya would not reach us to Supreme Reality. The method used by Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya, as you all know, Shruti, Yukti and Anubhuti. In all his commentaries on Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, also in his independent compositions, he had established the methods of explaining the inexplicable. He had adopted Yukti as one of the three ways to approach. But his Yukti is not the dry logic of the intellect. That is why in Sadhana Panchakam also he said, Shruti Madas Tarkonu Sandhiyata. Shruti Madas Tarka. Here, the logic should be understood as method of thinking. The method of thinking related to the Shruti, not away from it. Not questioning the authority of the Shruti also. Buddhajanaihi vada parityajyadam. He himself says in the Sadhana Panchakam again, avoid unnecessary logical arguments with the men of wisdom. And so Shruti Madas Tarka is what is here to be understood as the Yukti. Yuktihi sahayakam na pramanam. It is to be understood that the logic applied by Shankaracharya in explaining the reality, he says it is helpful aid to what is already declared in the Shruti, and it is not a pramana. Yukti is not a pramana. And again, tatravi na pratyakshatah, parantu pranalikaya. Not directly, you can apply this, but indirectly. I'll come to this point of indirect application a little later. The Vedanta teachers have a great challenge in front of them while explaining the nature of Brahman. That is, on the one hand, they have to appease the questioning intellect of the students, give them appropriate answers intellectually. But at the same time, the teacher must make sure the students don't stay there only at the intellectual level. And therefore, it is said in the Upanishad also, na medaya na bahuna shruten. Not merely by memorizing, nor by merely listening again and again. So the responsibility of a teacher is to make the student think independently, at the same time, not indifferently. He had to definitely use his intellect, no doubt about that. But he, at the same time, the student should not go away from the way of thinking. So the way of thinking is what is to be taught to the students, which should be closer to what they have understood as what is declared by the Shruti. Now, when I said that indirectly it is to be applied, what do we mean by that? Anatma nirdeshakaha yuktihi. The yukti that is used in explaining the nature of the self is to point out what is not self. Ettad adreshyam agrahyam avarnam achakshusotram apanipadam nityam vibhum sarvagadam sushukshmam yadbhudayonam yonim paripashyanti dhiraha. Adreshyam, ettad adreshyam, meaning that which is imperceptible, agrahyam, avarnam. Being so, directly pointing out is not possible. What is the self cannot be known as a pratyaksha. At the level of the student, incomprehensible it is. Therefore, indirectly pointing out in the form of directly pointing out what is anatma. Because anatma apanayanam tu atma sakshatkara hetu. Removal of identification with the not self is the means to realize the self. So now, in the path of jnanam, we proceed further only after knowing how the knowledge takes place. Knowledge cannot take place from ignorance. We don't start from zero. From avidya to vidya, when we say, this avidya is not total ignorance. Apurna vidya, avidya. So, to go from the unknown to the known, there must be some basis. Meaning, from the existing knowledge alone, new knowledge can take place. From the existing knowledge alone, new knowledge can take place. Asandigdena cha sandigdasya nigamanam nyayam manyante. From the incomplete, inaccurate knowledge, from that alone, the complete and accurate knowledge can be obtained. That is the transition. That is what is called jnana marga. So from what we know to what we don't know. Swami Chinmaya used to explain beautifully. A teacher wants to show a star that is up in the sky. Among the cluster of stars in the sky, he wants to show a particular star. But because it is so crowded with many, many stars, the student cannot see it clearly. So how would it be possible for the teacher to show it? So he would take the student to the nearest tree in front of him. You will ask, do you see this tree? Yes. Very good. You look at the tall tree here, and there is one branch going to the right side. Do you see that? Yes. And that end of the branch, there is a small twig. Yes, I see that. At the end of the twig, you see two leaves. Yes. Between the two leaves, can you see a bright spot? Yes, I can see the bright spot. Keep your eyes fixed on the bright spot and then move your head. Now you see that star. Now, what is he pointing it out? The star up there, far away in the sky. But what he is using to show that star? The tree. The tree, the branch, the twig, the leaves, etc. are being pointed out only to show what is not belonging to the tree at all. Nothing to do with the tree. So the using of the tree is to point out something which is not part of the tree at all. But having fixed the eyes to the star, then you move your head away from the tree and keeping the eye on the star, you know exactly where it is. Now you know the method used here. The tree is used for indicating something which is far away. In the same way, the logic is used to point out that which is beyond logic. So here, that which is unknown presently can become known with the help of the already known. Language has to be used, but language cannot reach there. Words have to be used, but words cannot reach there. Now here, we should understand then, words and words and words are used so much in the scriptures, yes, but one should understand the content of the teaching. not the container. See, even if a child, if you look at it, a child learns not from zero. First, it hears the sound, then associated letters, from letters to words, words to sentence, and sentence to language. It starts from the sound. But is it that the child starts learning the way to learn anything, even the language, mother tongue, when you say, it starts from sound, starts from hearing. So to understand the sound also, there must be a presence of something on the basis of which only it starts. So therefore, where did the child get the ability to know? No soul is born without the ability to know. Inherently, the soul is endowed with the ability to know. The Atman, the self, is by nature a knowing principle. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Jnanam is the nature of the self. Not the detail about, or not any particular knowledge. It is like the sunlight is there. Sunlight illumines everything. It is not illuminating particular object. The nature of the sun is light. Nature of the sun is not to specifically illumine an object. In the same way, knowing, ability to know, is inherent in the self. Now, when we come to any process of knowing, understanding anything, it is proven that knowledge takes place in a relationship. The subject, object, and the relationship between the subject object is the knowledge. Jnata, Jnaya, these two should be there for the Jnanam to take place. And these two, the subject and the object, must come together. Unless there is a relationship between, or the coming together of the subject and object, unless that takes place, Jnana would not. Now, according to Shankaracharya, the subject and object, in the subject-object relationship, the subject is not consciousness. Jnata Atma. Please pay attention. Jnata na Atma. Oh. Here the logic is, the consciousness of the self never enters into any relationship. It cannot. It has no sambandha with anything. If it has no sambandha with anything, then how knowledge would take place? Because, as we saw earlier, without the coming together of subject and object, there cannot be knowledge. And Atman can never become related to anything. Now, here is where we come to understand the role of Antakarana. mind, intellect, equipment come together. Antakarana, the inner instrument, the instrument of knowing, is illumined by the reflection of consciousness, and the reflection of consciousness, which is technically known as Chidabhasa. This Chidabhasa is the one which makes the mind and intellect as a knowing instrument capable of knowing a particular object. Because only when the Antakarana is present, knowledge takes place. When the Antakarana is absent, like in sleep, knowledge doesn't take place. This is the logic. Consciousness can never be absent. Swayam siddhasya cha sakshinaha apratyakhyayatvat. There is no refutation on the point that you cannot refute that consciousness is always present and Swayam Jyoti Swarupa. Swayam Janadi Swasiddha. Because even sleep is known. In the sleep, absence of the mind and intellect is also known. So therefore, when the Antakarana is attentively, for example, if a person is preoccupied with some thought and I go and stand in front of him, his eyes may probably look at me, but he is not looking at me. What do you mean by he is not looking at me? Antakarana is preoccupied. Similarly, if a person is sleeping and I stand in front of him, or a sound is going on, some music is going on, the fellow is sleeping, he will not hear. Is he alive or dead? He is alive. His consciousness is there. Then why is not listening? Antakarana is not active. So what is knower here? Who is the jnata? Chidabhasa. Jiva, who is now associated with the Antakarana. That is the reason why, for knowing the highest reality, the attention of the Antakarana and purity of that, the same, both are required. Clarity and purity. Antakarana Shuddhi is considered as a prerequisite to know the nature of the self without any ambiguity. And in Atmabodha, Bhagavan Shankaracharya clearly points out, Atmana Satchidamsascha Buddhehe Vritti Riti Dvayam Samyodhya cha Avivekena Janami Idi Pravartate. Janami Idi Pravartate. I know. When does it happen? The Satchidamsha of Atman and Buddhehe Vrittihi. So, is Antakarana endowed with the ability to know by itself? No. It has a borrowed ability. Just like a bulb is lighting up. Is the bulb capable of shedding light by itself? No. It is deriving its ability, deriving its power to light from the current. Now, is current the light? No. No. If the current is also not light, the bulb is also not light. What is light? Enlighten me. The filament in the bulb is capable of shedding the light with the borrowed ability to do so from the current. Without the current, the filament cannot shed light. Without the bulb or filament, there is no light, even though current is there. So the power of consciousness translated into reflection of consciousness as Chidabhasa, with the help of Antakarana, we come to know. And interestingly, a perception is reflected consciousness flowing through the mind, through the senses, towards the objects. Vritti Vyapti takes place. And the object of the knowledge is also illumined by the same consciousness, Phala Vyapti. I'm not going into that. Vritti Vyapti, Phala Vyapti, you know. So the consciousness, reflected consciousness now through the Antakarana flowing out towards the object. Interestingly, one should know, please understand this, mind is going towards the object. It's not object coming to the mind. Objects are not coming to the mind. Objects are not coming to the eyes and ears and nose and tongue. It is the Antakarana is going towards the object through the senses. Nana Chitra Gatodara Sthita Mahadiva Prabha Bhaswaram Jnanam Yasyadu Chakshuradi Karana Dwara Bahispandati. Ja, isn't it? Just like a lamp placed in a pot with many holes in the pot, from the through the many holes, the light is shedding out, flowing out as though. And that is the reason in Kenopanishad, the question raised by the student is what? Keneshidam patati preshitam manaha. Manaha patati. Vishayan prati. The mind is falling on the object. It is not the object is coming into the mind. But when we understand that when I'm looking at something through my eyes, when I look at an object there, is it object coming to me or I'm going to the object? The consciousness flowing towards the object because the reflection of consciousness is illuminating the intellect, intellect the mind, mind the senses, and senses towards the object. Indriyani indriyarteshu vartante. But everyone's knowledge or ability to know is so different from every other. No two people think in the same way, even though they are looking at the same object. But the way I look at it is different from the way you look at it or anybody else. Why it is so? That is because of the quality of the vritti. Nothing to do with the Chidabhasa, nothing to do with the pure consciousness, nothing to do with the object also. When I look at the flower, whether I'm enjoying the beauty of the flower or not, it's not depending upon the flower. Not depending upon the eyes. Not depends upon the Chidabhasa. Not depends upon the consciousness also. Then, Antakara. Therefore, broadly it is divided. There are 4 types of thoughts. Samshaya, Nischaya, Garva, Smarana. If the mind is in doubt, it cannot have the clarity of what it is seeing. the mind is Nischaya Vritti, then I know exactly what it is. If it has Garva Vritti, then it is a different thing. I own it. It is mine. The possessiveness comes. And whether it is Smriti, then it remembers the past. The similar one which I saw yesterday, day before, I remember that, and I may start liking or disliking it. So based upon these 4 different types of vritti, so will be the experience of that very object. Again, that experience of the object is not decided by the consciousness or Chidabhasa. It is decided by the quality of thought. And that is the reason why in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna explains the nature of the mind, which is influenced by the gunas of the Prakriti, and how by increasing the Sattvika guna, we come closer to seeing things as they are and not polluting with Rajas and Tamas. Nitya Sattvasto Bhava. By bringing that mind to the absolute purity, one can see the reality without the impurities of Rajas and Tamas. Now, how the logic is then to be applied in Brahma Vichar? Let us focus on that for some time. As we saw in the beginning, we don't begin with Purna Avidya, a total ignorance. So here in this context, we should understand avidya is incomplete knowledge, inaccurate knowledge. When I say inaccurate knowledge, what do we mean by that? Question is, Brahma prasiddham aprasiddham va? Is Brahma known or unknown? In the Brahma Vichara, we should understand Atma Vichar. Is Brahman or the Atman here, is it known or unknown? Yadi prasiddham na jignasitavyam. If it is known, there is no question of further inquiry into it. What is known, there is no need to inquire. Ada aprasiddham naiva shakyam jignasitum. If it is totally unknown, there is no question. About the totally unknown, there is no question of inquiring into it. If it is completely known, there is no question of inquiry. In other words, I know I am. And nobody has a doubt about that. Do you know you are? Yes. Aham asmi, tvam asi. So when I say aham asmi, I am, this is an unambiguous, clear awareness. I am. Even those who have never studied Vedanta, or never understood, or never had heard the term Brahman or Atman, will also say aham. I am. Is there any doubt? Are you there? You are asking me, Swamiji? Yes. Wait. Let me check with somebody. Am I there? Or let me look at my mirror. Or look at my body. Aham asmi. So nobody has a doubt about one's own existence. Nobody has any doubt about one's own awareness about oneself. But what you consider yourself as aham, that is where the question is. I know that I am, but I don't know that I am Brahman or Atman. This is called ignorance. This ignorance, which is incomplete knowledge, I know I am, but I know I am only at the present moment as this body, as this thought, as this understanding, or this individual I am. That's all I know. But I do not know my true nature, absolute nature, immortal nature. So presently what I know as what I am, from where that's where I begin with. And that misunderstanding about myself to be removed. That is the work of the logic. Idam jivaha aham, atma aham. Jivaha, as an individuality I am, I know that. So the difference between the individual self I am and the absolute self, Atma Brahma Shabdayoho Itaredara Visheshana Visheshyatvam. They both qualify each other. That's why it is said, Brahmedi Adhyatma Parichinnam Atmanam Nivarayati. So when Vedanta points out what is the nature of Brahman, Brahman is the same you without the identification, association with the anatma. Brahmedi Adhyatma Parichinnam Atmanam Nivarayati. Conditioned by the limitations presently that each one of us are experiencing as ourselves, that when it is removed, that is what is called Brahman. So the anatma nivaranam, anatma, that anatma nasha, a removal of the misunderstanding of myself, which is not the self. When it is done, then what is already there is realized. It is like, as Swami Chinmaya would put it, a raw stone is there, and I look at the raw stone, a huge rock, let us say. I look at it as a rock. Whereas my friend who is going with me, who is a sculptor, who can sculpt, when he looks at the same rock, he looks at Krishna there. A beautiful standing Krishna there. And when he looks at it, at the same rock, he looks at Krishna in the sense that he looks at the hidden Krishna there, whereas I am not able to see that. And how will I be able to see the Krishna which he is seeing there? Only when he removes not Krishna in the rock. Anatma nivritti. Atma sakshatkar. When other than the self, whatever is that which I am associated, thinking that that is what I am, when that nivritti takes place, what is already there, what is always there, is revealed. So the sculptor, what he does, what is not Krishna, he keeps on removing. The Krishna that is already present in that will get manifested. Now, Atmedicha, Atma Vediriktasya Adityadi Brahmanah Upasyatvam Nivarayati. By the term Atman, what is referred here is Brahman, the absolute, which is not merely an object of meditation, which usually we associate absolute with. Sun is Brahman, and therefore we worshipping of this higher reality as a upasya vastu, an object of meditation or object of upasana. This needs to be removed also, because it is not an object of meditation or upasana. That is why in Kenopanishad, what does he say? Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi Nedam Yeditam Upasate. The upasya vastu is not that. It is not a deity of worship. It is you. Yet chakshusana pashyati yena chakshumshi pashyati tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yeditam upasate. That which eyes cannot see, but that because of which eyes can see, that is Brahman, that is you, and not what is being worshipped or being meditated upon as a deity of worship. It is not that. So, by the term Brahman, what is indicated is the unconditioned nature of you. By Atman, the term Atman, what is indicated is that absolute which is not an object of upasana. Therefore, when these two misunderstandings are removed, Brahman and Atman is brought as one single unit. Abedena Atmaiva Brahma, Brahmaiva Atma. Now you see, we are living in a world, all of us, and we are interacting with so many things in this world, and one may wonder, is it possible, Swamiji, to exclusively pay attention to the self while we are really busy with so many not-self, including this physical body, our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, our responsibilities, our duties. So many things are there, dealing with other situations. So how do we pay exclusive attention to the nature of the self while we are so busy with all these things? Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta does not say Jagat is asatyam. It is mithya. Brahma satyam, Jagat asatyam na. Brahma satyam, Jagat mithya. That is how the explanation is given by Shankaracharya. Bhagavad says, Brahma Satyam iti, first of all, understand the nature of the self as pure existence. Then do not say Jagat does not exist. Jagat does not exist in the same condition at all times. The term Satyam, Sat is what? Trikale api abhadida vastu Satyam. In 3 periods of time, that which is not subject to any change, that is Brahman. In 3 periods of time, that is subject to change, that is Jagat, Anatma. So, Nyayam Sarvam Anatma. Manaha api jneyameva. Vrittayah jneyaha. Tasmat. And so you understand, whatever is known through the senses, through the mind, whatever is experienced through the mind and the senses, they exist, but not always. Just as during the waking state, waking experience takes place. During the dream state, dream experience takes place. During the sleep experience takes place. Do not say that that experience is not taking place. Experience is taking place. A thing which does not exist cannot give me experience. That which exists alone can give me experience. So, Jagad astiva nastiva. The world is or not. The world is, but temporarily it exists. It is subject to constant change. And that constant change is referred as mithya. Jagat mithya. As it is different from the Buddhist point of view. They say it is not even there. If it is not there, then how will you experience it? So the logic applied here in Vedanta is, what is permanent, that is Atman, and what is not permanent is Anatma, does not mean it is absent. So when it is coming to removal of Anatma, it does not mean reject that. No, know it to be false. That is a method of thinking in Vedanta. So as we go deeper and deeper and we understand, the method of thinking in Vedanta is so subtle, it doesn't reject the world. In the sense, it doesn't deny the existence of the world, but it only says it is false. It doesn't remain in the same condition at all times. And that which is not remaining in the same condition, yajneyam tajjadam yajjadam tat parinamatmakam yat parinamatmakam tat martyam yat martyam tat dukkhatmakam tasmat yayam. Anything subject to change is subject to perishing, subject to giving you sorrow, and therefore leave it. So, that which is not subject to change, that which is not subject to death, must be realized. And therefore, holding on to what is permanent, real, and rejection of what is indicated by logic as impermanent, subject to change. Rejection here means knowing its false nature. And that is the logic used in Advaita Vedanta for the abidance in the self. Abiding in the self is by falsifying what is not self, not denying their existence.